Natural disasters this year have kicked the behind of these farmers, especially out in the Midwest and Southeast. They have been struggling for some time from heavy snowfalls and the heavy snowfalls melting into rivers. And then on top of that, heavy rains that just seems to never, ever end. And when they get rain, they are getting like 3, 4 inches and sometimes even more in one rain shower. Levees have been breached, rivers are swollen, and there's no end in sight for these farmers. I was watching some of what was going on, and I was looking at some of the shots of these farmers trying to save their livestock. I remember there was a snowstorm in, I believe it was South Dakota, and the cattle actually was buried in the snow, and you could see the farmers trying to dig them out. Well, most of those cattle, they ended up dying. They were not able to even get the majority of them out of the snow. And I saw some of the farmers trying to save pigs, and the pigs drowned in that water. I mean, it has really been disastrous for these farmers. And the ones that can plant, some of them can't do it because the ground is so waterlogged from all of the excessive flooding. They really can't do anything at all. Well, Trump finally got around to signing a disaster bill that will help not only agriculture, but also Puerto Rico. Because in Puerto Rico, they still never got beyond Hurricane Maria. They are still struggling bad there. And so he is giving a portion of the aid to them. And it's really for food stamps for Puerto Rico. But for farming, what he's trying to do is provide block grants and also crop insurance for any of these farmers that might have lost 75% of their crop this year. But the main problem in this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, is they can't even plant their crops at all. And the flooding has prevented them from even getting their 2019 crop of corn in the ground. Corn is supposed to be planted by the beginning of June. If it's not in the ground by then, it's a problem for these farmers, and not to mention the farmers in America have lost a lot under the Trump administration. Many of you may not realize this, but Trump's trade war last year caused China to refuse to buy soybeans and corn from the United States. They now go to South America for that, and they have not come back. A lot of these farmers heavily depended on a lot of their income from China. In fact, that was the biggest portion of many of their income, selling to China. Well, they can't even do that anymore. Not anymore. China refused to buy anything from the US due to the trade war that Trump has kicked off. Now, there are other reasons, ladies and gentlemen, why farmers are struggling. First, you had the flooding, which we all know the flooding has been going on since January. Then, if you remember, there were hurricanes, especially North Carolina was heavily impacted from the hurricanes, and many of those farmers lost their whole crop. Then you had the wildfires out in the West, and you had the Kilauea volcano that prevents now a lot of farmers that were in Hawaii from planting crops. So it's been a really disastrous time for farming. And they said this is a time when a lot of farmers will abandon land because they'll just give up. They know they really can't do anything. And what they will do is some of them, unfortunately, there's a lot of suicides among farmers. And I didn't know how bad it was until I started doing stories on it. And I think the worst suicides, ladies and gentlemen, are among dairy farmers, which I was really shocked to hear that. A lot of farmers quit dairy farming and get out of it altogether. And some switch over from dairy farming and just getting into growing crops. But yeah, they have the worst suicides. So Trump signed a bill to help Americans who have been hit by recent catastrophic storms. And he said this, of course, on Twitter. So this will help farmers in Georgia, Florida, Iowa, Nebraska, North Carolina, and also California. $6 million of this bill that he signed will go to Puerto Rico in food stamps. Yeah, they never even bounced back from those two back-to-back hurricanes. I believe it was Irma and Maria. It is it is so bad. And I was reading, this probably was about 2 months ago. They're still going through power outages there. It is really bad there, for real. So they're saying they're looking forward to implementing this bill. Trump tariff payment, if 75% of their income is from farming, ranching, and forestry, and it established crop insurance for hemp products. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is really a bad year for farming. This is really bad. I think this is the worst I have ever seen it. Now, they're saying that right now, when corn is grown in the US, it's about 31 acres of corn. 1/3 of the crop were not planted due to persistently wet weather. Usually, corn planting is completed by the start of June. Some analysts say up to 10 million acres of corn will go unplanted this year. That's a lot. That is a huge significant. When you start getting in double digits, that makes a huge difference. Some of the land may be switched to other crops, with soybean the most likely alternative in the Midwest. So they surveyed these farmers. 1 in 5 out of 983 farmers who took part in an online poll said they would be unable to plant half or more of the corn acreage that they intended. Wow. And 52% said they're not even going to file a claim on their corn land at all. Okay, the wet spring is bringing a rapidly emerging forage crisis for livestock farmers across the Midwest. I bet it is. I bet it is. We think about crops being lost. We never think about all of the livestock that's being lost in this whole thing too. They don't just grow things and sell it. They grow things, and some of that crop, they use it to feed their animals. How do you do that if you're not even able to plant a crop? So now, how do your cows graze out in the grass when everything is underwater? You really can't. So now you run the risk of losing your livestock as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is really disastrous for them. If the rain continues, there may not even be any crops coming out of the Midwest, even in the summer. And we're not that far off from summer now. So this is bad. This is really looking bad. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.